Remember when camp used to be fun? When it reveled in its own absurdity and didn't try too hard to be serious? That's exactly what the Lost in Space TV series from the 1960s was. A light-hearted and often bizarre romp through space filled with colorful sets, melodrama, and some very strange character dynamics. Of course, the character who kept everyone guessing was Dr. Zachary Smith. His ambiguous nature, paired with a curious relationship with young Will Robinson, made you constantly wonder whether his motives were truly sinister or just self-serving cowardice wrapped up in melodrama. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Demon, and today we're talking about Lost in Space, the campy 1960s sci-fi series that took space exploration to strange and often amusing heights. While Lost in Space initially started as a serious sci-fi adventure, it quickly veered into camp territory, thanks in large part to Jonathan Harris's portrayal of Dr. Smith. Originally meant to be a straightforward villain, Harris's Smith transformed into a flamboyant, often comedic and deeply cowardly anti-hero. His constant whining, over-the-top insults, and his bizarrely close relationship with Will Robinson added a layer of intrigue that even today leaves viewers wondering what the writers were aiming for. Was he truly a villain, or just a selfish survivor? The ambiguity was one of the show's most memorable qualities. And of course, we can't talk about Lost in Space without mentioning the robot, also known as the environmental control robot, simply called the Robot. While Robbie the robot from Forbidden Planet did make a brief cameo in a couple of episodes, it was the robot, voiced by Dick Tufeld, who became the true icon of the show. With his catchphrase, "Danger, Will Robinson," and his stiff, mechanical movements, he was both a source of wisdom and an unintentional source of humor. The robot was as much a part of the family as any of the human cast, and he constantly saved them from Dr. Smith's various schemes or mishaps. Despite its campiness, Lost in Space had moments of real tension, especially in the earlier episodes before the tone lightened. There was always a strange sense of unease around Dr. Smith's interactions with Will Robinson, adding a layer of complexity that seemed out of place for a family-friendly show. Was it just an odd bond between an old man and a young boy, or was there something more unsettling about Smith's intentions? The show never answered that question directly, but it's part of what made Lost in Space stand out from other campy TV fare of its time. In terms of production, Lost in Space was a visual treat, even if its special effects look laughably outdated by today's standards. The sets were colorful and bizarre, leaning fully into the camp aesthetic that defined the series. It embraced its low-budget limitations, using them to create a world that was both charmingly ridiculous and oddly immersive. Sure, the monsters looked like something out of a local carnival, but that's part of the fun. Despite all its camp, Lost in Space worked because it had heart. The Robinson family's dynamic was believable, and their struggle for survival, mixed with Dr. Smith's constant antics, made the show endlessly entertaining. The robot was more than just a sidekick. He was a beloved character who often played the straight man to Dr. Smith's antics, grounding the show just enough to keep it from flying completely off the rails. Lost in Space may not be a show for everyone, especially if you're looking for highbrow sci-fi. But if you're in the mood for campy, nostalgic fun with a few surprisingly dark undertones and a heaping dose of melodrama, it's a ride worth taking. I'm Snake Demon, and this has been The Snake Pit. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, like the video, and leave your opinions in the comments, where I won't read them.